Kuf Chaf Gimel Amud Beis will begin Kuf Chaf Gimel Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. To straighten out the limbs of a newborn baby. They had a practice that custom in those days that when a newborn baby was born, sometimes the limbs would be dislocated, so they used to straighten it out. Is that permitted on Shabbos? Rav Nachman also, Rav Sheshes Shari. Rav Nachman says it's also, Rav Sheshes says it's mutter. So Rashi explains, Rav Nachman says it's also because it's dome, it's compared to a masakin. It's like being masakin, just like we know that being masakin, fixing a kli or an instrument, being masakin, putting the final touches on it is maki b'patish. This has a similarity to it. It looks like you're fixing something. You're fixing the child, or you're remedying fixing the limbs, you're straightening them out. So it looks like it's being masakin, and it's also. But Rosh says it's mutter. Omer of Nachman menon mina lo it's my raya that it's also because it looks like masakin. This na nein oisen am aktivizan b'Shabbos. You cannot make an activizan. They used to take an anemic to induce vomiting, and sometimes they did it so that they could eat more. It was sometimes they used to induce vomiting so that they continue eating. They wanted to indulge themselves. So that's also, so don't you see that being misakin, even a person, that tikkun applies, at least we'll call upon him in the Rabbana, just like there's being misakin amana, there is a tikkun for a person. And it's also, Rosh Hashanah says, no, you can't compare it to that case. Hasam lav, or over there, it's not the normal way. It's not the standard practice. People in their normal conduct don't do that. So therefore, it's something out of the norm. It's something unusual. There, it can look like you're changing something, you're fixing something, you're rearranging something. So there, it has more of a similarity to being misakin, and it's also, but something that is done in the normal course. So it's in the normal course. It's not misakin. Now, even though it has a benefit, but it's not being masakin. For instance, a person eats regularly, he drinks regularly, in the normal way. That's not called masakin, that's just normal living. So Rosh Hashanah says that hasam lav orche, hacha orche. Over here, however, by the tinuk, for the child, that's the normal practice. The normal practice is to straighten out the limbs after the birth. Omer of Sheshes menon mina lo. I'll bring you right from our mission this son. It says you can remove a thorn. So you see, even though it has a benefit, you're benefiting the person, you're removing the thorn, but it's done in a normal way, it's a normal activity, and therefore it's mutter. Like our Mishnah says, the machat shel yad is mutter, it's not muksa, because it has a purpose, even if the eye is removed, to remove a thorn. So you see, removing a thorn is mutter, it's not called masakin. Rav Nachman also pakid achaloi pakid. Rav Nachman said you can't bring a raya from over there, because over there it is pakid. Over there it's not really in the body itself. It's just like in a pouch. The thorn is not really embedded in the body. It's not like you're doing an operation. You're removing something that was just in the surface, under the surface of the skin. So therefore, it's considered to be like just in a contained sack. You're not considered being masakin. It's not considered a process of masakin. But over here, you are, looks like a melocha, it looks like you're being masakin it because it's dislocated, it's out of place. And now you are rearranging it and putting it back in its proper place. It's something that was dislocated. So that is considered to be masakin. You're changing the structure of the bones, you're changing the alignment of the bones. So that's a change, that's masakin. Over here, you're removing just something that's on the surface, so that's not called masakin. So that's how he's mechalik between the two. Zok the Mishnah, if you have a cane that's used for olives, they used to take a cane and turn over the olives in the vat to see if they were ripe enough. So this if it has a knot at the end of it, then it's mekabel tumah. It's considered a kli to be mekabel tumah. V'imla vein mekabel tumah. But if not, it's not Makabal Tumah. It's not considered a Kli, and therefore it's not Makabal Tumah. But but as far as Shabbos is concerned, whether it has a knot on it at the end, it's a usable cane. It has a use, so it's Mikabel. It has a use. It's not Muksa. It's therefore Benkach. It's Nittel b'Shabbos. You can be metaltal on Shabbos. Back to Gemara, my pshutei kli eitzu upshutei kli eitz ein mekablam tuma. Why should the cane be mekabel tuma, even if it has a knot on it? Even if it has a knot, the chayre is pshutei kli eitz. It doesn't have a receptacle. It doesn't have a hollow. Now, when the Torah talks about kalim that are mekabel tuma, it puts together in the list kli eitz together with sak. A sak, like a sack, has an interior. It's stored. Things are stored inside. Things are put inside of it. So therefore, we make a hekesh and we say the type of wooden kli that's makabel tuma is something that's similar to sak that has an interior, that has a receptacle. But this cane, the chayra, does not have a receptacle. Nothing is stored inside of it. So why should it be makabel tuma? So pshuta kli eitz ein makabel tuma. My time it doing the sak bina. Tana Mishmei Rav Nechemi, he explains, no, it does have a receptacle because in the knot there's a little bit of a hollow where oil is collected. When he turns over the olives, he wants to see if they're ripe. Some of the oil is collected in that knot, and therefore he can examine it to see if the olives are ripe and ready for pressing. So it has a receptacle. It's not pshutei kli eitz. Therefore, it would be makabel tuma. But if it doesn't have the knot, then it would be considered pshutei kli eitz. It's not makabel tuma. So by tuma, there's a chilek whether it has a catch or not. But legabe Shabbos, there's no chilek because it's usable. Legabe Shabbos, it doesn't have to have a receptacle, and it doesn't make a difference as long as it's a usable item. And therefore, it's a cane. So whether it has a kesher or not, it doesn't matter. It's still usable, and therefore it's metal b'Shabbos. There's some discussion in the Paiskim as to what type of status does it have. The Masechet Shekel says, yes, it's a kli, and therefore it can be metaltalid, but it's a kli shemalach d'liyisr. This kli is used for the process of the olives, of pressing the olives and extracting the oil. So therefore, it's a kalisha malach d'isser, and yes, you can be metaltalid, but it's only mutal tzarach gufa u'makaymai, and therefore it has a limited use in tiltal. But that is some discussion. Do we consider it something that it is specifically for this use, and it's a kalisha malach d'isser, and therefore it's restricted? But that is the day of the Masechet Shekel. Zok the Mishnah, Rav Yasi says, Kol kelim nitolim, all kelim can be moved on Shabbos, chutz min hamaser hagodol v'yoseh shamach reisha, except for a large saw and the blade that's used for a plow. When they plow, the blade that comes at the tip of it that penetrates into the soil. The underlying reasoning over here in the Mishnah is, Rav Yasi says, this is a different category of muksa. This is a category of muksa that's called muksa machmas chasarn kis. We learned before that muksa on something a klisha malach d'liyisr, then it's mutal sorach uf mekayma. Rav Yasi is introducing the category of items which are muksa machmas chasarn kis. These items are expensive. The owner is the carpenter or the farmer that is particular about it. He doesn't want to get nicked or ruined, so he doesn't want people to use it. So therefore, this is muksa, and according to most Rishonim, and the way they learn, the chilik between this type of muksa and klish malach d'liyisr is a klish malach d'liyisr is motor tzarach uf mekayma. This is also, even a tzarach uf mekayma is also also. This category of muksa machmas chasarn kis. Amar Rav Nachman, Hai uchla de katzri ki yaset shal machreisha dami. He said the uchla de katzri, the way Rashi explained it, is the launderers, the kaivsim, they had a kli. It was a kli made out of copper. It was perforated, And Rashi has two pshatim, either that they sprinkled the water and it went through the holes, or that they burned incense and the aroma and the smoke came up and it gave the aroma to the clothing and it rose through the perforations. This also is kiyasa shel machresha. Also, the launder is very particular about it, and it's muksa machmas sarkis. Omar Abayim, he says, Harbe de ushkeva, the tanner's knife, v'sakina dashkafta, and a butcher's knife, v'chatzina de nagri, and the carpenter's plane, kiyasa shel machresha dami. They're also considered yasa shel machresha. The owners are particular, and they're muksa machmas sarkis. Originally, as Gemara will explain, the gzeras of muksa came about at the time of Nehemiah ben Chachaliah, that the people were very, very lax in Shmiras Shabbos, and there was terrible chilul Shabbos, so there were geyser severe restrictions on what kelim could be taken. And at the beginning, they were only matir a very limited amount of kelim that could be taken. So they said you can only have 3 kelim: the knife used for cutting the pressed figs, the fig cakes, and so they had that could be taken, and zuma shel listrin shel kadera. So they said only the maksoya shel devela, the knife for cutting the pressed figs, the zuma listrin shel kadera, the ladle used to skim off the oil and the foam from the top of the pot, v'sakin kedana shel gabe shulchan, and a small table knife. Those were the only kelim that they were matir. Taisus mentions that these are the only kelim that didn't have a base kibble, but kelim that had a base kibble, that like cups and bowls, were never included in the gzera. And the Ran explains it a little differently. He says that the kelim that were used almost exclusively for dover heter, and they were used in regular use for dover heter, like regular kelim that are used, utensils for eating, and then they were never included in the gzeira either. Now we'll see the practical nafkaminas about whether something was originally included in the gzeira or not. However, they both hold that when it says these kelim, it doesn't mean only these kelim. They're the regular cups and bowls that were used during mealtime for eating. These were not included in the gzeira. So that was the initial gzeira, that they were matir only these limited amount of kelim. Hitiru v'chazr v'tiru v'chazr v'tiru. Then in stages they were matir more, then another stage again, and another stage again. Ad sha'amru, until finally they said, kol kelim l'talam b'Shabbos chutz min ha'masar ha'gadol v'yas shel machresha. Until they said, like we have in our Mishnah, that all kelim are muter, that kelim generally speaking are muter, and even a kalisha malach d'liyisr is muter, except for kelim which are muksa machmas chasar kis. So now the Gemara explains what this means. What are the stages? What were they matir in the different stages? Omer Abai says hitir v'davar shemalach leheter l'sar gufa. They were matir. The first step was a klisha malach leheter, even a klisha malach leheter, which was originally included in the gzeira. They were matir, but only l'sar gufa. And then the next stage was even the klisha malach leheter. It's only mutar however tzorach megufa and bekoima. And then they were matar klisha malach leisler tzorach gufa in tzorach mekoima loy. But even that is only tzorach gufa, but not tzorach mekoima. V'adayin b'yara chazin b'shnei yarav loy. And even what they were permitted, even a kli that was mutter, it can only be if it was a light kli, if in one hand, but not with 2 hands. Until they said the final stage was that they said all kelim are mutter unless they are very heavy, that you need more than one person to move it. But even if it's not light, you need 2 hands to carry it, it's still mutter, which implies, as we'll see, that if it needs more than one person to carry it, then it still would be awesome. That's the way Abaya learns it. Amrle Rava says, Mechli Atir Ketani. It says, why are you differentiating different stages between Tzarech Guf and Mekayma? There should be no difference. Once you're saying that they're Matal Tzarech Gufa, the Tzarech Mekayma is essentially the same type of use and the same type of leniency. There should be no distinction between the two. If you're Matal Tzarech Gufa, it should be also Matal Tzarech Mekayma. Rather, he says the first stage where they were matir was a klisha malach leheter, which is normally used for permitted uses, and it's mutter ben l'sorach gufa ben l'sorach mekayim. There's for both it's mutter. Then the second stage where they were matir was even if you don't have a use for this item or don't even have a use for the place, it's only to protect the item. Mecham l'tzeil, you're taking out from the sun to the shade, or for instance that it doesn't get stolen. Then they were matir that as well. Then the next step, which the next stage was a klisha malach l'sarach gufa l'sarach mekayma in mechama l'tzeil. So they were mater a klisha malach l'isser mechama l'tzeil is still also, but it's muter l'sarach gufa l'sarach mekayma. V'adayin b'aram echad en mishnei b'nei aram loy. But still, it was only muter, only if one person could carry, but not if two people could. Only it needed two people to carry it. Until the final stage, they said, no, it can be mounted even if it requires two people, or as Rashba says, or more, then it's still mutter. Then it's mutter. It has the mortar in yesh ba shum metaltal noisa. If there's garlic on it, you can be metaltal v'lavin metaltal noisa. But if it doesn't have the garlic on it, it's a kli shemalach l'yisur. You can't be metaltal. So doesn't that show you that a kli shemalach l'yisur cannot be taken? That if you need it for l'sorach mekayma, it cannot be taken. More answers. No, Rava will answer that this is yes, but not if he needs it from a kaima. If he needs the place of it, if he needs the makam, it's motor. Klish malach l'yisur is motor saragufa and a kaima. Over here, where we said it's also, is if he has no use for it or its place, it's just to protect it. Earlier, the Gemara answered or explained this in a different manner. It said it was going according to the Shita of Nechemia. But this is Rava offers this possibility over here that we're talking about Chamal Etzel, and that's why it's awesome. And by us another kasha, it says Vishav and Beisham Beis Hilashim Kosvala Basar Shasal Talpla. That the pastel Beis Hill says on Yontiv it's mutter to chop meat on it, but once you finish chopping the meat, it's muksa, you can't take it. So you see that it is muksa, a klisha malach l'isser is muksa l'sarach mekayma achanam mechama l'tzeil. This is also mechama l'tzeil. Omar Rav Chanina b'mei Nechemia v'chachalya nishmish l'zu. So this that we discussed, that they answered all the kelim and they only permitted these three kelim, that was at the time of Nechemia Navi. Nechemia said he saw the people on Shabbos. It was Geferlach. He saw people on Shabbos that they were pressing wine in the wine vats on Shabbos and bringing piles from the fields. They were carrying from the fields, so they had to take extreme measures, and that's why they made severe laws of muksa. So they included everything in the halachas of muksa, except these type of kalim that are needed for the immediate use, the kalim, the three kalim that were mentioned, and as the Rishonim speak out, the kalim that are used for the utensils for eating, they were never included in the gzeira. But other things were included in the gzeira. And as we mentioned before, there's enough kamina if something was included in the original gzeira or not. Something that was included in the gzeira, many of the Paiskim hold, and it's brought down the halacha, that even though we allow you to be kelim klishim lach leheter, it's mutter totally. It's even mutter mechama l'tzeil, even to protect the item. But they say, since these items were originally in the gzeira and they were moderate at the later stages, however, you cannot carry it for no purpose at all. They were matir in the later stages. They were matir l'tzorach guf v'mekayma. They were matir it mechama l'tzeil, but not completely. And therefore, if there's no use for it, just to be metaltal for no reason at all, it would be awesome. Now, things which were never included in the Gzeira, like utensils for eating, like you say kaidish, there's no limitation, even for no purpose. But those items, they are aser. They're aser if they have no purpose for it. So the way Rava learns it is that there were certain items, most items were originally included in the Gzeira. They relaxed it as time went on. How could they relax it if there was a Gzeira of Nehemiah, as Taisus speaks out, that the Gzeira of Nehemiah was only for that time, for that particular time, was not meant to be for future generations. So as the time went on and they saw that people were more zoyer in Shemiras Shabbos, they relaxed the halachas of muksa, these restrictions of muksa. However, even they were materit, the maskana will come out, the way Rava's learning is that Klisha Malach Lehater is muter filo mechama l'tzeil, but those items that were originally in the Gzeira, if there's no purpose whatsoever, they are aser. Items that were never in the Gzeira are muter even if there's no purpose. Klisha Malach Lehater is muter only l'tzorach guf v'mekayma, but it is muter l'tzorach guf v'mekayma. Mechama l'tzeil it's not. And then we have in our Mishnah the category of items which are muksa, machas, chsar, and kiz, which are even also l'tzorach guf v'mekayma.